The Sports Town Podcast.
I am pleased to be joined by Jason Flynn of the SoccerCardsUnited podcast. How's it going, Jason?
Good, JJ. It's great to be back. How are you?
I'm doing great. We had a great conversation last time with the Euro Cup ending and, of course, Copa America and some other big stuff that happened in soccer. I guess it had been last week, but wanted to have you on. But before we talk about that, can you talk more about your podcast, where we can get it, pretty much all that good stuff?
Yeah, so I'm from a podcast. I'm one of the co-hosts of Soccer Cards United, which is a podcast about soccer and sports cards. So you can see there's some sports cards here behind me. But we talk about football, all the latest football news, or football, and soccer and all that stuff. And you can get it wherever you get podcasts. And on Twitter and Instagram, it's called Soccer Cards United.
Alrighty, yeah, that sounds great. Definitely got to give that check that out. I checked it out the first time we did the interview, so I'll have to catch your recent episode or latest episode. But let's start off with the Euro Cup final. Italy gets the win over England. England comes up short again. What did you think of the championship game? And if you can give us more of a highlights of the game, pretty much.
Yeah, so it was an incredibly dramatic game to end an incredibly dramatic tournament. This year's European Championships was one of the most interesting and dramatic international tournaments I can remember. It was fantastic. We were kind of worried that because everybody had played such a long season, that maybe it would not be a great tournament because everybody would be fatigued, be tired. But no, everyone was well up for it. It was brilliant. From the moment we had the opening ceremony in Rome, where we had Andrea Bocelli singing Nessun Dorma in the Stadio Olimpico, was fantastic. And then weeks later, Italy ended up getting the win over England. It looked like England were going to wrap it up very early because within 3 minutes we had Manchester United left back Luke Shaw found himself in a load of free space, an inexplicable amount of free space in front of the Italian goal, and he knocked in the opening goal, and it was 1-0 to England. And England were pretty much on top all through the first half. They were holding onto the ball better than Italy. They were running with more energy than Italy. Italy looked quite tired from their semi-final against Spain, which went the full 120 minutes, including extra time. So we thought England were gonna win, but they backed off a little bit. They didn't want the ball. They started to play a bit defensively, and they let Italy settle into their rhythm. They let Italy control the ball, and then in the second half, the Italians really started playing and came back with a vengeance. And eventually, it came around in the 67th minute, so in the second half, midway through the second half, one of the Italian defenders, Leonardo Bonucci, made it 1-1. He scored a goal from a corner kick. He's part of the centre-back pairing of Bonucci and Chiellini, who I think are 37 and 33, so they're like 70 years old combined, and they've been around seemingly forever. Any soccer fans will recognise them instantly. They play for Juventus together, and they were just a rock at the back for Italy all through the tournament, and it was only right that one of them would get the goal that took the match as a draw to extra time, and it stayed 1-1 at the end of extra time, and then we had a penalty shootout, and that's when the drama really kicked off. The penalty shootout was very dramatic. Italy scored their first penalty, England scored their first penalty, and then Italy missed the penalty, and then England scored theirs, then Italy scored theirs, then an English player, Marcus Rashford, who you may know, Man United player and a national hero to the English, has fed a lot of hungry school children and things like that. He's got many honours in England. He missed his penalty. So this is very dramatic because you have to remember the final is in Wembley in London. It's in front of an English home crowd, and national hero Marcus Rashford just missed his penalty. Then the Italians scored their next penalty. Then the English missed their next penalty as well. And then up steps Jorginho, who's an Italian, plays for Chelsea. And this is a guy who made his name. He came over from Brazil when he was young to Italy, played in the amateur leagues, crawled his way up to the Italian top tier, and made his name based on his penalty technique, where he does this little hop, skip and a jump and very easily knocks it into the corner and never misses. And he did it, and the English goalkeeper, Jordan Pickford, saved it, and everyone was like, oh my god, Jorginho just missed his penalty. This is the guy who never misses. England have it. And then England's final penalty taker was a 19-year-old kid called Bukayo Saka, who had played fantastically throughout the tournament, unexpectedly taken a lot of responsibility on because there's more senior players who weren't playing because he was playing. And this 19-year-old kid steps up to seal the championship for England, and the Italian goalkeeper saves. And the whole stadium, their faces just drop. The Italians go crazy. They just won the whole Euros. I'm in Ireland, everybody in Ireland, everybody in Scotland, everybody in Wales, pretty much everybody outside of England is like, yeah, the English lost. The Italians are like, we won. And it was just a brilliant end to a brilliant tournament.
And I think I heard a lot about this, but was it, or would you have rather seen a game that was scored by non-penalties kick? Because of course the way it ended was a penalty kick. A lot of people said that was a little controversial. What would you have rather seen? Someone score a goal or more of a penalty kick?
I think I personally would have preferred Italy to win in normal time. The fact that it went to penalty kicks to settle the tie, that's always nerve-wracking. I think if you're England, you would have been hoping to settle it in normal time. Nobody really likes penalty kicks. Nobody likes a penalty shootout because it's so nerve-wracking for both sets of fans. There's so much pressure because it's just the penalty taker and the goalkeeper. And both goalkeepers in this case did very well, saved a couple of penalties. But I think everybody would rather win in normal time. But generally you'll find in championship matches like that, if you're playing 90 minutes of normal time, then another 30 minutes of extra time. In the second half of extra time, so the last 15 minutes of extra time, both teams will generally decide, okay, now we would rather keep the ball and make sure we don't lose. Because penalty kicks, regardless of who's playing better, penalty kicks can go either way. It's some people say it's a lottery, and it basically is. It's whoever has the luck of the draw, you know? So I would rather see as a neutral, somebody win, Italy win in normal time. That's who I was supporting. So I guess I wasn't neutral, I was biased towards Italy. But if you're one of the teams that's playing, you always want to win in normal time. If you're neutral, if you're like us and you're just watching it and you're covering it and you're talking about it, you cannot beat the drama of a penalty shootout.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of like, it reminds me kind of like in American football where at the end of the game, instead of winning normally, it would be more like kicking field goals back and forth. And again, no one really likes to see that. It's not as fun to watch as just like a normal time. I think someone, though, pointed out that I think France lost the Euro Cup in 2016, correct?
Yes, that's
okay.
Right, yeah.
But they ended up winning the Euro Cup, 2 years, or not, they ended up losing the Euro Cup, the World Cup, yeah.
The World Cup 2 years later, yeah.
And someone was pretty evident that maybe England has a chance to win the World Cup in 2 years. What do you think about England's chances of winning the World Cup rather than losing the Euro Cup?
Well, you can't deny the progress that they've made under their manager Gareth Southgate, because in the World Cup that France won in 2018, England got to the semi-finals, and that was their first semi-final in a long time. So he took them to the semi-finals of the World Cup in 2018. This was Euro 2020. It was postponed by 1 year, but it's Euro 2020. He took them to the final of this tournament. So in his two major tournaments, he's got the semi-final, then he's got to the final. So there's a pretty clear track record that they're building something. They have a lot of good young players. Their squad, the World Cup's only next year, so the squad that they have now is pretty much intact for next season. And there's every chance, if I was an England fan, which again I'm not, but if I was an England fan, I would be very optimistic that Gareth Southgate can at least get them to the semi-finals, maybe get them to the final, and then who knows? They're due a win, and they haven't won anything since 1966. So.
Yeah, I mean, it was probably heartbreaking for England to watch that, but at the same time, if you make the championship after so many years of just not winning, I mean, I can see where you get in progress and stuff like that. Let's go to the other side. Italy wins. Was Italy the favorite to win going into the Euro Cup, or who was the favorite exactly?
So Italy were kind of dark horses, and they're managed by Roberto Mancini, who's a former player. And people might know him from his days managing Manchester City in England. And he had taken them on like a 20-game unbeaten run since he took over. Italy didn't qualify for the 2018 World Cup, and it was a huge national scandal. So they had a rebuilding project to do. Mancini comes in, he builds this squad that are playing very exciting attacking football and has like a 20-game unbeaten run. most of the teams he was playing were minor nations. People said once they come up against the big teams, they're not going to be able to do it. So they kind of came into the tournament as dark horses, maybe like, say 10-1 odds to win the tournament. The favourites were France, England, Portugal maybe, so Belgium. So Italy weren't really favoured to go deep into the tournament, but definitely get out of their group. The opening game, as I say, was in Rome, in the Stadio Olimpico in Rome, and the Italian team came out and really, really comprehensively beat Turkey. They beat them 3-0 the opening game, and that was like a statement of intent from the Italians. And from that point on, with every passing round, it kind of became more like, I think Italy might be the best team in this tournament. And in the ultimate challenge, they beat Spain in the semi-final, which wasn't easy, and then they beat England in the final. So Italy kind of took this mantle of dark horse and were quite happy because they had some sort of group spirit, some sort of belief in themselves. They didn't need the media, they didn't need anybody talking them up. They knew they had something special, and they just put their heads down, stayed together. And even when their best player in the tournament, the left back Spinazzola, he was injured, he broke his Achilles, another player came in for him, and they just had this togetherness and this fighting spirit, and they ended up winning the whole thing compared to England, who were hugely hyped.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty exciting to watch, especially a team that's not expected to win, or not people are expecting them to beat the big countries. But that's great news and stuff like that, especially for Italy, who we all know loves soccer. Before we switch gears to the Copa America, let's talk about what's England and Italy's chances to win the World Cup? I know the World Cup is a little different, but what chance do you give both of them of possibly winning it?
It's a tough question because obviously you would generally the European teams, along with maybe Argentina and Brazil, would be the favourites for the World Cup, and certainly the current European champions are always backed. I would say. See, even now, even I'm sitting here, Italy just beat England in the final, and yet my mind immediately goes to, I think maybe England have a better chance. But there's no reason that Italy couldn't carry the momentum from this Euros into this tournament. As I say, because this tournament was delayed by a year, the World Cup is in November 2022. So the same teams basically will be playing the same squad. I think both of those teams will fancy getting to the semi-finals of the World Cup. I think if they got anything based on their performance in this tournament, if they got anywhere less than the semi-finals, Italy and England would both be disappointed, and I certainly would expect them to give strong performances in Qatar 22.
Okay, and I know I said we're going to switch gears to Copa America, but I do want to get one more question. What do you give? Of course, I'm from the U.S. I know the U.S. has gotten better, but what do you give them chances of possibly winning the World Cup, or even, I know they're not going to win the World Cup most likely, but what do you think about their chances of at least making somewhat of a run?
Well, actually, I think since the last time we spoke, I think this was, the USA played Mexico in the final of the inaugural CONCACAF Nations League, and they won, and it was quite a performance from the US, and for the first time in a long time, I like the USA team, the US men's team. The US women's team have always been brilliant, but the US men's team traditionally, you look at them and they're working harder than everybody else. They're, always very athletic guys. They can run and run, but technically they're not great. Their passing isn't great. Their shooting isn't great. Their interplay, passing between players and moving at the same time isn't great. But this team, you're starting to see like a core emerge of players who play in Europe. And who came up in Europe. So you have like Christian Pulisic, you have Gio Reyna, you have Yunus Musa, even Brendan Aronson moved from Philadelphia Union to RB Salzburg in Austria. And I wouldn't put it past the US to get to maybe the round of 16 or the quarterfinals next year. But the really exciting thing is, and where I think they should be aiming, is that in 2026, the World Cup is being hosted in North America, so it's split between Canada, the US and Mexico, and I see no reason why, if they have a good World Cup next year and they keep bringing through these young exciting players, I would expect the USA to get to quarterfinals, semi-finals in 2026 on home soil. And I think at that stage, the US men's national team will be a sensation in the States.
Yeah, that's great because I can see the fans are starting to get more involved in, soccer and stuff like that. And especially if it's in North America, that would be huge. Yeah. Let's now switch gears to the Copa America. Argentina wins. What did you, or I guess Argentina was probably the favorite to win, but what did you just think of that whole tournament?
So the final of the Copa America was actually only the second game from the tournament that I'd seen, because obviously with time zones, they played them late at night in South America, which is like the middle of the night here in Ireland. So I had to stay up until like 1 a.m. to see the final. And actually Brazil were the reigning champions of the Copa America, and Argentina haven't won it since 1993. So Brazil went in as favourites, which I thought was strange. And of course you have Leo Messi, who renewed his, we'll talk about that in a minute, but who has never won a major tournament with Argentina. He's the captain of Argentina, and one of the criticisms leveled at him was always that he never brought a trophy to Argentina. I mean, he won, I think, Olympic soccer, and he won the Under-20 World Cup in terms of a senior trophy, which is basically the Copa or the World Cup. And this Argentina team, again, have that thing of they're behind Messi, they have a good attitude, and they came in, and the Copa was strange this year. It was in Brazil because of COVID, because Brazil was the only country in South America that would risk it from a COVID point of view. So they said you can have it here, but there was very limited capacity. There weren't people traveling from other countries. A lot of commentators said it was one of the less colourful, less eventful Copa Americas that we've had in a long time. But Argentina won't care. That won't matter to them. They won, And the Argentina generation currently is very exciting. I mean, they have players, obviously you have Messi, but then you have Angel Di Maria, who's the same generation as Messi, plays for PSG. He was brilliant. He scored the winning goal when Argentina beat Brazil 1-0 in the final. You have Rodrigo de Paul and Lautaro Martinez, who are younger Argentina players who are exciting. And I think Argentina now, having won their first trophy since 93, Leo Messi has brought a championship to Argentina. They are another team now who have, they've addressed the elephant in the room. They've had this thing on their back for so long that we can't ever follow through. We can't ever actually win anything. But now that's broken their duck. That's the phrase I was looking for. And now they can go into the World Cup and they say, hey, we're winners. We're continental champions of South America. There's no reason why we can't go toe to toe with Brazil if we meet them again, or with, Italy, or with England, or France, or any of these. They're not afraid of anybody, and they're fierce. They're competitors. I mean, I don't know if you saw any Copa America final, but it was like watching WWE at times. The tackles going in, people were flying through the air, there were clotheslines happening, there were big lunges. So Argentina won't be afraid of anybody next year. Leo Messi is still the best player in the world. God, I'm excited for the World Cup.
So what do you think about Argentina's chances of winning the World Cup? I'm assuming they're going to be somewhere in the top there. What do you think about their chances of actually winning the World Cup next year?
I think they'll fancy their own chances. I don't think they're quite strong enough to do it. I think their defence was flattered a little bit by Brazil, who found themselves a little bit toothless. They're missing a couple of players. So I don't think Argentina will be able to defend strongly enough to actually win the World Cup. But if Messi is still in form, if the players like Rodrigo de Paul and Di Maria are still there, and a couple of others, Leo Paredes, if these players are all clicking, there's no reason Argentina couldn't be, again, semi-finalists. The likes of England, Italy, Argentina, these are going to, Spain, I think, were excellent in the Euros as well. These are kind of the early, pack to chase in the World Cup.
Okay. Yeah, because I would feel like Argentina would be somewhere because they're always one of the top tier teams. So
yeah.
And before we talk about Messi re-signing with Barcelona, I kind of wanted to mention this. I don't know if we talked about this last time, but it's kind of a question I think a lot of soccer fans have. Who is the better player? Is it Messi or is it Ronaldo? And who's altogether had the better career?
Well, this is, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. This is the ultimate debate. We're not going to settle it here today. The one thing that people have always, since 2016, because up until 2016, Messi and Ronaldo had never won an international tournament between them. And then in 2016, in that final that you mentioned that France lost in the Euros in 2016, Cristiano Ronaldo leads Portugal, and he got injured early in the match, so he's literally standing on the sideline shouting and coaching them through the final, and brings home the European Championship for Portugal. And for a lot of people, that was all the proof they needed. You see, Cristiano's a winner, he's a champion, he's not like this Messi fella who needs other players around him. This guy's good, he can drag a team even when he's not playing, he can drag them to the championship. But now, that myth has been busted, because Messi's just won the Copa America, so now they have one international title each. I would argue that Messi is playing at a higher level than Ronaldo is at the moment, but Ronaldo's a couple of years older. It's so hard to say. I personally think that Leo Messi is the better player, but who has had the more impressive career? Maybe Ronaldo, just based on the fact that he started playing in Portugal for Sporting Lisbon, and then he goes to Manchester as a boy, well not as a boy but as a teenager, goes to Manchester, makes a huge impression at Manchester United, wins his first Ballon d'Or at Manchester United, wins the Champions League at Manchester United. Then he goes to Real Madrid, becomes their all-time scorer, wins so many titles there, wins 3 Champions Leagues in a row. Then he goes to Juventus and he conquers the Italian league as well. He wins the European. So in terms of the career he's had, on paper, Cristiano Ronaldo, you might say, has been more impressive as a kind of travelling phenomenon. But the football romantic might say, well, Leo Messi has been in Barcelona since he was 15, and he's won everything there, and now he's won something with Argentina. So it's a more romantic idea of he's the one club man. So it depends whether you like a cold-blooded, hard-working competitor, or whether you like a gifted genius just doing what he does. I personally err on the side of gifted genius, so I prefer Messi.
Yeah, it kind of feels like Ronaldo's kind of more popular, I would say, just because in the US you see a lot about Ronaldo, and I feel like, I don't know, I've always wanted to know the question. I've gotten so many different opinions from different soccer fans, but it seems like Messi, I guess, is the better overall player, but Ronaldo is more popular. I mean, I just see a lot of Ronaldo, but did you have anything else to add to that?
Well, it's the thing of Ronaldo is a better self-publicist. You know, he's again, because he's played in Portugal, he played in England, he's played for Manchester United, and he's played for Real Madrid, and he's played for Juventus. So these are fan bases that he's accumulating. He's one of these people. He doesn't just want on-field success; he wants off-field. He wants to build an empire. You know, he wants to create a legacy for his children and all this stuff. And I'm sure Leo Messi does as well. But Leo Messi is a much more insular, much more humble figure who doesn't want to be on every advertisement. And, you know, like I could see Cristiano Ronaldo very easily being in Hollywood movies when he's finished playing.
Yeah.
I don't see Leo Messi ever being cast in the Fast and Furious 15, you know?
Yeah, I think it's similar to what basketball rivalries like LeBron and Kobe, or if you went to like American football, I mean, more like Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. I don't know if really baseball would necessarily have that type of rivalry, maybe like a Maguire or Sosa, but it does kind of feel like you get different opinions, but you feel like, yeah, Messi might be the better overall player, but just Ronaldo is more popular and he wants to go out there.
Yeah.
I do have one question before we start with the Messi returning to Barcelona. Do you think Ronaldo will ever go to the MLS? Because there's been a lot of talk of that, but what do you think about that?
I'm not sure. I mean, he's not yet anyway, because I think whether he stays at Juventus or he goes somewhere else this year, I think he's going to want to be in Europe for another year at least, because he's going to want to go to the World Cup in 2022. So he needs another year of top level football under his belt. After that, I could easily see him going to the MLS for a year. I mean, he's the kind of player you could build a franchise around, you know, the likes of Inter Miami, you know, or one of these expansion teams. I could easily see having him. His salary demands would be incredibly high, and maybe not be feasible. But I could see him going to the US kind of to, you know, build his brand there. You know, kind of like when Ibrahimovic did that, and Zlatan went to LA Galaxy, and all of a sudden he was a celebrity. And if Ronaldo was to go to play for the Galaxy or to play for LAFC or even to Miami, he would be an even bigger celebrity in the States than he is now. Of course, there is one thing which we don't have to get into now, but there are some outstanding allegations against Ronaldo about something that happened in a Las Vegas hotel room. There's a woman that accuses him of inappropriate behavior, and there are people that say he won't go to the States because he doesn't want to be on US soil so that he can't be questioned by certain lawyers. But apart from that, and assuming that they can find a solution to that, I can absolutely see him. Same with Messi. I could see both of them spending a year or two in the MLS.
Yeah, okay, because I've been hearing a lot of rumors about it, and I think, you've seen a few players do it, but yeah, the MLS isn't as popular as, like said, the Premier League and the Liga and all those other leagues. So let's start off with of course, the big topic right now, Messi returning to Barcelona. He had kind of a massive pay cut, though, because Barcelona is right now in debt. But were you surprised? Well, actually, last time you came on, you said that he was likely going to return. But were you surprised by such a pay cut he had to take?
It was crazy because when he won the Copa America, he was technically a free agent because one of his contract at Barcelona that ended, and he hadn't signed a new one, so he won that as a free agent. And people were saying, "This guy's good. Somebody should sign him up." But Barcelona are in dire financial straits due to years and years of mismanagement and irresponsible spending. But like I said last time I was on the show, Messi is settled in Barcelona. He doesn't want to go anywhere else. I don't believe he does. His family are there, his friends are there, and crucially, there are players now coming in. Like they just signed Sergio Aguero, who is Messi's brother-in-law, I think. His brother-in-law, there's some relation there, and he brought him in to kind of be a friend for Messi, be a close companion since he lost Luis Suarez. Luis Suarez went to Madrid, Atletico Madrid. And there are young players now at Barcelona, like Pedri is the best example. Pedri just had a phenomenal tournament with Spain at the European Championships. And so I think Messi looked at the project around him. He said, okay, they're bringing in Aguero for my kind of support bubble. They're bringing through Pedri. I like the coach. I like my life here. I don't want to go to Paris. I don't want to go to England. And I think crucially, if Messi had any doubts when he started the Copa America, when he lifted that Copa America trophy, he has nothing now left to prove. I think if he had lost the Copa America, he may have said to himself, in the back of his mind somewhere, there are still people that doubt that I could do it anywhere other than Barcelona. And he may have said, I'm going to Manchester, I'm going to Paris. But now that he's won the Copa, he's like, I'm just going to stay where I'm happy. I don't need to prove anything to anybody. I think winning the Copa America may have brought Messi kind of a peace of mind that he didn't know he was missing. And if we thought Messi was good already, I personally am scared to see what Zen Messi looks like,
Okay, because like I said, I was a little surprised that he re-signed because I had heard so many rumors, but I knew you said, or when you came on the last time, you said that he most likely is going to stay because there's so much things, intact in Barcelona. So, and again, thanks for coming on as we're wrapping up this interview. Again, thanks for coming on. It's been great. Do you have anything more in store for your podcast, stuff like that? Just anything in the future?
Yeah, we're going to be trying to do some video stuff soon enough. Trying to add some video elements to the podcast because we have a couple of hours of podcasts every week, and we know people don't necessarily want to troll through them all if they just want to try us out. So basically, go to Twitter, go to Instagram, and just search SoccerCardsUnited and follow us on whatever social media you use, and keep an eye out for some of our more bite-sized content, or just jump straight into our back catalogue if you want to hear the podcast. And thanks a million for having me on, JJ.
Yeah, it's been great. Every time that you came on, I learned more about soccer. Just as a casual fan, you get to know a little more. So, again, thanks for coming on. Again, don't forget to check out the Soccer Cards United podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You said you were going video soon, so I'm assuming that would be YouTube, maybe, or
YouTube. Yeah. We have a YouTube channel. There's not much there yet, but you can go and hit the subscribe button in anticipation, should you so wish.
Okay, thanks again for coming on, Jason, and have a wonderful day. And enjoy soccer season starts in August, so again, enjoy that. So
thanks a million. Bye.
Yep. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Sports Town Podcast, or the STP Pod for short.
You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and much more. Also, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Sports Down Podcast. If you want to check out more videos of the Sports Down Podcast, click on the right.